and welcome to Community Action. I'm your host, Curlene Nelson. With me today is Alisa Cupid. Alisa is an Assistant Regional Counsel in the Office of General Counsel at the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Now, that's a mouthful. I had the pleasure of meeting Alisa recently, and I am amazed at the work that she does. Alisa is a gem. Alisa, welcome.
Thank you, Curlene. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you for coming. Alisa, we're going to go right into, and I know we need to know who are you, where you're from, what your ideas are, your thoughts, and the whole bit. But tell me, who is Alisa?
Well, Curlene, as you mentioned, my name is Alisa Cupid. I currently work with the Office of General Counsel for U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. I am an Assistant Regional Counsel. In other words, I'm an attorney with the agency. I am born and raised right here in Queens. Just next door in Jamaica area, attended school locally, attended college locally, went to Queens College, and so just kept the support right here in New York. And now I'm an attorney working with the agency, advising the agency on internal issues, personnel issues, issues pertaining to Medicare, provider supplier cases, that sort of stuff, and Head Start preschool programs. So it's a little bit of everything. And when I'm not working with the agency, on my own, I'm following my passion, which is working with youth and just serving in the community. I have a heart for service,
Awesome.
And if you're going to define me, heart for service probably would be it.
I want to go back a little bit. I want to go right back around. What made you go into law?
It has always been a dream of mine ever since I was a little girl. There was something about watching some of those legal shows on TV where I liked the analysis of it. I liked the back and forth. I always found that it was interesting that you can have one issue and different perspectives or different views on the issue. So I wanted to be an advocate. When I saw that, I wanted to be an advocate in the community. Always been interested in doing community work. So I wasn't quite sure what type of lawyer I wanted to be. I went back and forth throughout my my career, or back and forth before I actually went to law school. First I wanted to be in the public sector, then the private sector. But after graduating from college and working for 3 years in the insurance industry, eventually I said, okay, enough is enough. It's time to go back to school. I didn't know whether it would be law school or business school, because at that point I started questioning whether I was still interested in the law. And when I thought about business school or getting a master's in some other field, I couldn't figure out what would I do with it. I know I've always wanted to do law, so the legal route is where I went.
Well, you're definitely a native of Queens. You grew up here in Queens.
Yes, I have.
Have you ever thought about, because generally I believe that the path for most of our local attorneys or anyone who's taken law is to go into public office. Have you ever thought about that? Are we going to lose you to that spectrum?
You know, I have thought about it at one point in my career. When I went to college, I did major in political science. During my time in college, I volunteered with local assemblywomen in my district, did some other volunteer work, attended a couple of Democratic committee meetings and so forth. And then I did an internship with the New York State Assembly. I went upstate to Albany. I lived there for 6 to 7 months. And I worked in an assembly member's office, and I loved it. It was an awesome experience, especially seeing that I went to school locally, so I got that little bit of a away time. But it gave me an insider's view to politics. I think I was able to see what took place behind the scenes. And there were times when I said, I don't think this is what I want to do. I'm not sure that this is what I want to be involved in. I found that there was a lot of giving and taking, and I wasn't certain whether I'll be able to do that. You know, you give on some things that you strongly believe on sometimes just to win something greater for your constituency. And that I had an issue with. So politics in the future, maybe. I think there's a slim chance, a very slim chance. But, you know, the thought has crossed my mind, and right now it's not something that I foresee.
I've had a chance to visit Albany several times, and I'm always at awe.
Right.
What do you say to people who have never gone to visit their local congressperson, who's never ever been to Albany? What do you say to those folks?
I think that it's important to engage in the system that we have. You need to know who your representatives are first and foremost. I found that in volunteering in different offices, the people that knew who their representatives were and were not afraid to pick up the phone and write a letter are the people that see results. And it's not very many people that are actually doing that, because the politicians or our representatives know that they're elected into office. So when you do call them, they do try to respond as to the best of their ability, knowing that their votes depend on you. But a lot of individuals are not familiar with that. They're not understanding of that. So they think, you know, life is the way it is, that the system is the way it is, and they'll just accept it.
And actually, our politicians want to hear from us.
They do.
They
They
do.
do. They really do want to hear from us. They want to serve us. That's why they're there. So any engagement in the system, any understanding, I think it's interesting to visit Albany, or, you know, any congressional level, you know, local, state level, and just see the process in play, understand what is taking place, and understanding your place, your role in it, and most importantly, understanding the importance to vote.
Yes,
You know, to get out there and actually vote and make that difference and that change.
Yeah. I also know that you're not only involved in the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, you are very, very involved at your church.
Yes.
You light up. Tell me more about that.
I'm a very active member with the Great Island Cathedral located on Merrick Boulevard. I currently serve as an officer with the church. I engage in several ministries, including Sunday school. I work with young people ages 15 and up. I also engage in the women's season. We have a fantastic women's committee and women's season events that involves luncheons and brunches and awesome preachers, female preachers from throughout the country that come by, and we culminate with a conference. We have an awesome women's conference. This year it'll be held in Connecticut. So I engage, or I'm very much involved in that. And in addition to that, right now I'm also teaching discipleship, or assisting in teaching a discipleship. I'm a
Where do you
teaching,
have the
what they call a
time?
teaching fellow.
Where do you have the time
You know,
for all this?
the time is something I'm trying to work out. You know, as with everything that I take on, one of the things that I pray about is help me to be a better steward of my time, help me with time management. It's often a struggle, but I'm learning. I'm trying to learn how to balance.
What is your specific ministry at the Greater Allen Church?
I would say there's so many ministries. I mean, as an officer, you know, not only am I helping and assisting in the background with, you know, offerings that come in and so forth, but what I love about it is the opportunity to do visitations with those that are sick, that are shut in, to be praying with others, and just taking that time out to have conversation with others. I love Sunday school. I love engaging with the youth. Youth empowerment is something that is very important to me. It's been important to me as long as I can remember. I've always done something where
What do you do
I'm
for the
assisting them.
youth at the church?
Well, I lead Sunday school classes. So what I'm doing with those Sunday school classes is teaching biblical principles to these young people, but also trying to help them to relate the biblical principles to their lives now. You know, I always tell them, don't just look at this as, you know, the Bible is a living word.
Yes.
Don't just look at it as a
Yes.
book that's outdated. This is God's word and it's still alive.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't just look at it as something that took place over 2,000
And
years
that's why it's
ago.
called the living word.
Right. But how does it apply to your life now? I say to my children, I was like, there is nothing new under the sun. I don't care what issue you bring to me.
That is so true.
I will show you it here, and we will learn from this word, which should be your blueprint, of how you should handle the issues that are currently coming up in your life. So I love to do that, and then also just deal with some of the things that they need to address, like college. Are you thinking about attending college? Are you looking into colleges? College preparation, the readiness for that, self-esteem building, that's huge.
Yes.
Knowing who you are and whose you are, your identity in Christ, but also just feeling confident in yourself. I think that there are a lot of kids, especially young women, that are walking around with low self-esteem, and that low self-esteem is blocking them from reaching their purpose and just fulfilling their God-given purpose. So as a Sunday school teacher, I see it as my role to incorporate the biblical principles with the issues that they currently face in their life, bullying in school,
Which is very important,
temptations
yes.
of joining gangs and drugs and alcohol, and all these different type of things.
Do you see yourself bringing a lot of what you do at the church to the community? Because as you know, our community, it's in desperate need of someone like you.
I do, because, you know, I strongly believe that it's not just enough to do the work in the church, but we have to go beyond the four walls of the church. And not only that, but that's the mission of our church, to reach out into the community, to do community outreach. The leadership of our church encourage us to do that. So I do try to take it outside of the church. I currently volunteer as a mentor with iMentor, which is a nonprofit that mentors partners with different schools throughout New York City, and they provide mentors for young people in the schools. So I have a young lady that I'm currently mentoring in a school in Brooklyn. I recently signed up as I sit on the community advisory board for New Visions Charter School. This is a location, they have a location in Sheepshead Bay, Brooklyn. So I do that, and part of that is just giving advice about some of the programming at their schools, some of the issues that might come up with the young people they'll bring to the meetings, and we'll sit around as an advisory board, give feedback on that. So I try to engage in so many different ways. There's been so many things, Girls' Rites of Passage through my church. And then in serving, one of the other ways that I love to serve, I do a We the People competition
Tell
with
me more
New York
about
City.
that. Tell me, please.
And We the People is a competition among high schools throughout New York City, and they come up with topics, constitutional topics, where the students come and they get to present. And I usually volunteer as a judge with several others in the legal community.
Is this co-ed?
Down. I'm sorry?
Co-ed? Is that co-ed?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes,
Okay.
I usually volunteer as a judge. And you know, the young people get to come and do their presentations on some sort of constitutional issue. They usually don't know what questions we're going to ask. We ask them questions. We judge their presentation skills, their understanding and comprehensions of the constitutional issues, some of the laws, and they, you know, those that get the highest scores get to advance to the national level of the competition.
That is awesome. Now, I know that you go to an organization. There's a Queen's Fellowship that you go to, and that's where we met.
Yes, that's where we met.
But before we talk a little bit more about that, one of the things that I thought about is, have you ever thought about venturing out into the community whereby you open your own business or something like that to help to further mentor children who are not going to church?
Mhm.
Because you know we have some families that do not attend church.
Absolutely. Mhm.
So how do you intend to reach those people?
Mhm.
How do you intend to get to them?
Well, one of the ways that I currently get to them is through partnerships. As I mentioned, I do volunteer with different organizations. I mentor. I also volunteer with a new organization that's been around a couple of years ago called Life Light Street Productions. It's a nonprofit organization that is focused on bringing media production skills or using media production skills as an intervention for youth who have some sort of interaction with the criminal justice system.
Hmm.
So I volunteer with that organization. I have scheduled workshops that I'll be doing with that organization, and I try to provide some support and advice. So I think that it's very important to support organizations in the community. I've volunteered with several other organizations in the past, one called ACCE, right here in Queens, that has an after-school program. So in the meanwhile, until I get my organization up and running, you know, that's something that I have been struggling with over the years
Ah.
because I've been volunteering and giving so much through my church and through other organizations, but now I feel that I'm being led and directed to start my own
That's
organization.
by visiting, being a member of now the Queen's Fellowship, yeah?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
and it's part in the Queen's Fellowship. I before I joined the Queen's Fellowship, I knew that it was something that I wanted to do. I felt like now is the time to start an organization, and I'm still trying to figure out exactly what type of organization. Would it be a for-profit? Would it be a non-profit?
Hmm.
But I know that what it would be doing is um, youth empowerment, leadership development for youth. Um, and I'm still trying to work out the finer points of it. But the Queen's Fellowship program, that has been a wonderful opportunity because it's enhancing or advancing my professional development, and it's also providing me with those networking opportunities that I
Well,
would
tell me,
need.
now that we're talking, now
Hmm.
that we're on to the Queen's Fellowship Program, tell me more about what is the Queen's Fellowship Program, how you got involved,
Hmm.
and really why did you choose to get involved?
Right. Well, I actually found out about the Queen's Fellowship Program through the CEO of Life Light Street Productions. Told me what a wonderful experience it was for her, and I decided to apply myself. Queen's Fellowship Program is a 10-month professional development and networking program for nonprofits, for faith, government leaders in our community, in
And
the
that's
Queens community.
faith-based organizations.
Right, faith-based organizations
Hmm.
for government people that are involved in other nonprofits, government entities. And the whole idea is to pull people who are leaders in the community or somehow involved or engaged in serving the community together
Hmm.
to encourage that continued engagement in the community, to encourage more advocacy,
Hmm.
and basically build one Queens,
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
leadership of one Queens.
Now, ha- being a member of
Mm-hmm.
the Queen's Fellowship Program, has it helped you in any way in thinking about acquiring your own non-for-profit organization? Or I think you mentioned earlier when we were talking about and probably starting an LLC.
It has helped me, and I've been examining it a lot. One of the things that's helped me with is that you're interacting with other individuals that are involved in nonprofits that are doing such wonderful work in the community.
Hmm.
So that's always a motivation.
Hmm.
You build partnerships, or you're finding, meeting people that you can collaborate with. I've already met one individual where, most likely I'll be doing a workshop at her church for some young people. So that's an exciting possibility. But also the seminars that they give you, the professional development seminars, one of the things that I recently thought about is we had a seminar on coalition building.
Hmm.
And that seminar had me thinking, okay, well, wait a minute, I'm interested in doing the youth empowerment. I'm interested in encouraging youth with college and self-esteem and, finding their purpose in life and pursuing their dreams. What place would coalition building have in that? What role would it have? And I know that one of the reasons that I'm interested in working with the young people is when I look at our educational system and the education gap that we find in our communities, particularly communities in which find are mostly, brown and black individuals, we see that there's quite a gap, and the performance rates and the graduation rates are not as high as they want to be. So it started making me think, well, what coalitions can I form? What coalitions can an organization that I form or find, help found, what could we do to address these issues? Not just working one-on-one with young people, but also forming coalitions to address the issues of um, low graduation rates or educational gaps, low academic performance, high school dropouts. So the Queen's Fellowship has benefited me in that way. It's given me a lot to think about. I feel like it's opening my mind even more as to the possibilities, and it's helping to give more direction as to where I'm going or where I'm heading with this. As I mentioned before, I think I described the idea of starting a nonprofit or possibly an LLC as a struggle. And the reason I say it's a struggle, it's a journey, Sometimes, as you know, I'm an attorney and I'm with the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and right, it's a comfortable place,
Yes, yes.
And when you're starting up a business of your own, when you're starting a new project, there's that little bit of that discomfort, it's a new zone for you. So I'm just trying to maneuver in that area, and there's a point in time when you realize, am I doing what I'm called to do? And that's where my struggle was, realizing that no, you're called to do much more. And
I'll give you a little tidbit. Find your passion, that's your business.
right. and I've heard that, and I'm realizing, that this has been my passion, and I've been doing it, but I didn't realize how much I've been doing it. So now I'm feeling the desire to do more, and that more will be establishing a nonprofit or possibly an LLC, because I'm also interested in real estate.
Yes,
so
yes.
we'll figure out, which is going to be the LLC, and most likely working with the young people will be
So the company
nonprofit.
that you're thinking of, because a lot of companies were formed right at this table, as the Lord says it.
Was it really?
You put it out there, and it becomes a business. Something happens. Put it out
Right.
there, and it happens. One of the things that you might want to also consider is that when you start this, and I strongly believe that you will start this year.
Right, because I have a feeling that community action will be holding me accountable to my words.
Absolutely. But when you start this, and you notice I didn't say if, but when you start this, be mindful of the other organizations out there that that do almost the same things that you're doing, and find that niche. And I think you have it. You've said it. Find it, and that's what you build on.
Right, and it's a matter of finding the niche, but one of the things that I've learned is, and I didn't speak about this earlier, when I started my career with the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, I initially started as a program specialist with Administration for Children and Families. I was working as a program specialist issuing Head Start grants. And one of the things that I learned in working with Head Start programs is, that's the preschool program serving ages 3 to 5, early Head Start served from birth to 3 years old, is I learned the notion of collaboration. I learned the importance of collaboration, because one of the things that, as we went out and we reviewed Head Start programs to make sure they complied with federal regulations, we looked to see how were they collaborating with other entities in the community. Could be other Head Start programs, it could be health services in the community. So even in establishing a nonprofit, I see that there's great importance in collaborating
Mm-hmm.
with other entities, other nonprofits in the community. I think that it's important. You know, the word says that the harvest is plenty, but the
Yes.
workers are few.
Yes.
So sometimes we think, well, why establish another organization?
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's so much work out there to be done,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, no organization should be operating solo.
Yes. Yes. Well, Alisa, you are a gem, and I thank you
Thank
so
you.
very much for joining us. But what before we leave, I want you to tell me more about you. I want you to tell our audience more about you. Where can we find you? How can we locate you? And I know that many of us are going to try to steal you from Greater Allen, but tell me more. Where do I find you? Do you have a website, phone number?
Well, right now you can reach me by email. My email address is acupidesq@gmail.com. That's acupidesq@gmail.com. You can always reach me by email. I'm available to do workshops for young people. I'm available to do speaking engagements. Whatever it is that you need, just reach out to me. I love to give advice on individuals who are just trying to figure out what careers they're going to pursue. So many people have been interested in careers in law, and they come up to me and say, well, what was your path? How do I do this?
Yeah.
What do you think I should do?
Yeah.
I'm here.
Yeah.
So please
Well,
reach out to
thank
me.
you. Thank you so very much, Alyssa, for joining us. And thank you again for watching another Community Action. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you again.